Michel, what's the latest? Did anything happen after, well, what we saw?
Okay. Bonsoir et merci d'être là. Oui, il s'est passé quelque chose, c'est des petites victoires. Déjà, il y a eu d'autres analyses au niveau de l'eau pour savoir s'il y a d'autres puits qui sont contaminés ou pas. Et il y a d'autres personnes qui ont eu la démarche aussi de faire des analyses. Donc ça, c'est une petite victoire.
Yes, there has been some further development. There have been other analyses done. Lab analysis for the water.
Yeah,
was it not switched on?
Maybe.
I thought I was given a microphone that was switched on.
Oh, maybe a little closer. Yeah, that's it.
Can you hear me now? Right?
Not
yes.
really.
Not really.
Okay, maybe if you share, that'd be better. Yeah.
Faire autrement. Yes. So this is better, right? Okay, so there have been further developments. There have been analysis done, a lab analysis from other wells as well, and so other people also undertook some action, so things are moving.
But what's a victory? Because you said something about a victory. I mean, the fact that there are more, right?
La victoire est qu'avant ça, personne ne parlait de cette localité ni de la contamination et que les villageois ne savaient pas que l'eau est contaminée ou pas.
Right. Well, the victory is that before nobody was talking about it, whereas now there is more talk. The villagers now do know. Before they didn't know whether their water was contaminated or not, and now they do know about it.
Okay, but it's just a start. I mean, they know that there's a huge problem.
Oui, merci parce que c'est vrai que la mine n'a jamais dit qu'est-ce qui s'est passé. Donc la mine a gardé les résultats, elle ne veut pas donner parce qu'elle sait que l'eau n'est pas bien alors que c'est elle qui l'a contaminée. Donc le fait de faire le film et de montrer que l'eau est contaminée, déjà c'était aussi un acte d'un pas, petit pas, mais c'est pour commencer.
Yes, of course. And before, the mine would never say anything about it. They would keep the results of the analysis secret. But after filming, now we do know about the water. So it is a step. It's a bit of progress, a little step, but there is progress.
Is there a reaction? Did the company react? Yeah.
Non, l'entreprise n'a pas donné de commentaires. Je pense qu'elle ne donnera pas. Si elle donne des commentaires, c'est aussi donner de l'importance au sujet alors qu'elle veut que ça soit comme banal. Donc, pour l'instant, il n'y a pas de réaction au niveau de l'entreprise.
No, there has been no response from the company. They want to, sort of make it less important. Make it banal, so they will not give any reactions.
How did you know about the village and what was going on with the mine?
Oui, je lis beaucoup la presse, je m'intéresse à ce qui concerne mon pays. Donc un jour, je regardais dans la presse qu'il y avait cette mine était arrivée à son âge d'exploitation. Et pour moi, c'est important parce que c'est la première mine qui a atteint son âge d'exploitation. Mais le journal aussi disait que le bilan était très négatif et donc ça m'a intéressé. Je me suis déporté, je suis allé dans ce village pour comprendre un peu beaucoup mieux ce qui se passait.
Yes, I read about it in the press. I do follow the press closely with anything concerning my country, so I found out this was one of the first mines that came to the end of their operating, their gold mining, and it was found to be, the results were very negative for the environment.
Yes. Was it difficult to persuade the villagers to cooperate, to let you film them?
Non, c'était pas difficile parce qu'ils avaient envie de raconter cette histoire. Ils avaient envie que les problèmes soient connus à travers le Burkina et aussi à travers le monde. Ils me l'ont dit, ils veulent que la société soit dénoncée Donc je suis arrivé aussi au bon moment, mais j'ai quand même pris 2 ans pour faire le film, histoire d'avoir confiance, qu'ils aient confiance en moi. Donc voilà, mais ils étaient prêts pour parler. Et ça a été aussi une chance pour le film.
No, that was not very difficult. The villagers did want to talk about it. They wanted the problems they had in their village to be known in Burkina Faso and also around the world. They wanted to denounce the company, and so I simply arrived also at the right moment. But it did take me 2 years to really win their confidence, but they were ready to talk.
Before you could start to film, sorry, before you could start to film, it took 2 years?
2 ans avant de pouvoir commencer à filmer?
Une année pour commencer, une année pour aller, puis revenir, et une année pour faire le film. Donc le tout, ça a pris 2 ans.
Okay.
Yes. Well, it was 1 year to prepare to start filming and then coming and going again. And so in all, it took 2 years.
Okay, and that's what you call easy, right?
Et là, vous dites que c'était facile.
Oui, ça pourrait prendre beaucoup de temps par rapport à la thématique et la complexité du problème, parce que c'est assez complexe. Et moi, je prends du temps aussi pour comprendre ce qui s'est passé, pour aussi raconter cette histoire sans qu'elle ait trop de polémique, mais qu'elle soit juste. Selon ce que les paysans ressentent et ce qu'ils avaient envie de faire ressortir. Moi, j'ai donné la voix à ces gens parce que pour moi, ils n'ont pas la voix et leur voix ne porte pas, leur voix ne part pas très loin. Ils n'ont pas de médias, ils n'ont rien pour exprimer. Pour moi, le cinéma, c'est un canal pour rendre les choses plus évidentes et aussi rendre les choses plus sérieuses. Donc voilà, donc je dis facile, mais c'est vrai que ça pourrait aller beaucoup plus loin, ça pourrait durer beaucoup plus, mais là c'était 2 ans pour moi, c'est un bon timing.
Yes, of course, but it could have taken much longer because it is a very complex issue, and I really wanted to take the time to understand what was happening and to be able to film and not in a in a polemical way, but really to make sure that what I showed in the film was what the villagers felt about the problem and what they wanted to be shown into the film. And so because these people don't really have a voice, so I wanted to give them a voice. And of course, cinema and film is a very good channel to make things known. And I wanted it to be obvious that what I was showing and also that it was very serious. So when I use the word easy, it's more like it could have taken much, much longer.
Sjirk, what struck you most about the film?
That's a good question. I think what struck me most was to see the anger in the eyes of the people and the misery on their faces. Because in my job, I read a lot about these issues, and then you get the rational knowledge of these issues, but you don't get the feeling of what it's really about on the ground. And for me, that's the great benefit of this film, that you really get a feeling about what it's, how it feels to being lied to, for example, by such a big corporation, and what it's like to have a government that makes a deal with such a big corporation without taking into account your interests, for example. So these people are helpless, I think, and that's just very well reflected in this film.
Is there such a thing as sustainable gold mining?
Well, we don't invest in mining companies, so I'm inclined to say no. I think this film showed very well what the impact of mining companies can be, or I would say even is, the impact on the environment. I don't think that deserves much of an explanation after we've seen the creators in this film. I mean, there was a forest before, and there were living animals before, and there was clean groundwater, and all that is gone. And also, if you look at the impact on the local communities, and for example, the chemicals with which the workers had to deal without any protective clothing, I think it's difficult to call that sustainable, and I don't know of any examples in this industry of companies that do a better job actually than this company. So
is that the reason that ASN Bank is not involved, because it's just an industry that there's no good examples?
It's definitely the most important reason. The other reason I could mention is that we want to invest in long-term solutions, and mining is finite. So for us, that's not a long-term solution to increasing demand for these minerals, for example, because of the transition to renewable energy, for which we need a lot of these minerals. But these minerals are perfectly suited for recycling, for example, so that's something we support, and that's also something that we would invest in.
Yeah. To the both of you, I don't want to sound naive, but when I watch the film, I can't help but think, even if they would have treated the villagers fairly, and give them enough money and not leave them with only one foot and not paying for that, you'd think they'd still make lots of money. I mean, what's...
Money for whom?
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. What is this something you think about? What's the reason to do it this way?
Well, I can see the interest of the president, for example. His government earns a lot of money. It's also prestige for him, I think. But I mean, these people were not consulted at all. They weren't asked to consent with the mining, and if they would have had the option, I'm not sure whether they would have said no, said yes.
Michel, how do you look at this?
Ok, et déjà, il faut citer que l'exploitation de l'or au Burkina, ça date de 2000, dans les années 2000, qui a remplacé le coton comme premier produit d'exportation. C'est très important de situer là, parce que le Burkina, c'est avec l'or qu'il utilise pour prêter d'autres argent au niveau de la Banque mondiale, puisque nous sommes sous tutelle de financement de la Banque mondiale.
Yes, well, it is important to realize that the mining activities in Burkina Faso started around the year 2000, and they replaced the cotton products as that were the first products that were exported by Burkina Faso before, and the gold also serves to reinforce our position with the World Bank, because it's the World Bank that imposes several important decisions on Burkina Faso.
Donc depuis que ça a été changé, moi particulièrement et beaucoup d'autres personnes, on a eu peur. Et comme disait, effectivement, l'or, c'est pas un produit fiable qu'il faut envoyer comme premier produit d'exportation sur un marché. C'est pas renouvelable. L'or est tarissable. Ça veut dire qu'un jour, tout va finir et qu'il y aura les conséquences comme celui-là. Et c'est ça qui fait peur.
Yes, and when this started to change, I was afraid. I got to be afraid because, as you said before, gold is not really a viable product. It's not renewable. It will come to an end. If you rely on a product, on gold for export, then, of course, at some moment, everything will be finished and you will be left with what we saw in the film.
Did you try to get an interview from the company, from the Kalsaka mining company, to interview?
An interview.
Yeah, an interview. Yeah.
Voilà.
Est-ce que vous avez essayé d'avoir un entretien avec quelqu'un de la société d'exploitation?
Ok, déjà, je sais que de façon officielle, ils n'acceptent pas qu'on filme à l'intérieur ni donner des informations. C'est eux qui maîtrisent le système de communication. C'est eux qui décident quand est-ce qu'ils doivent parler et ce qu'ils doivent dire. Donc, okay.
Yes, well, first of all, they are not willing to give an official response. They do not allow films to be made on the inside. They are the ones that decide when to give information, what information will be given.
Donc au départ, je suis allé par exprès de façon officielle pour dire oui, je veux filmer, est-ce que c'est possible? Non, c'est pas possible, voilà, on n'accepte pas, ok, mais je le savais que c'est pas possible. Et en plus de ça, dans ma démarche, je voulais pas leur faire l'honneur de les mettre dans le film, parce que pour moi, que ce soit la société minière et l'État burkinabé, ils ont tous les moyens pour se faire entendre, et aussi tous les moyens pour mentir à nos populations et aussi à l'opinion internationale. Donc les mettre dans un film, c'est leur encore donner beaucoup de place. Pour moi, c'était pas possible. J'ai changé mon camp, et mon camp, je suis avec les paysans, et c'était eux que j'avais envie qu'on entende pour une fois, qu'on les entend moins. Donc je voulais pas les mettre dans le film. Même si je les avais interviewés, ils ne seront pas dans l'image dans le film. C'est pas possible.
Yes, well, of course, I did approach them officially to ask permission and have an interview. I knew beforehand that they would never allow it, but also I didn't want to do them the honor of being shown in my film, being able to talk about their position, because, I didn't want the company nor the government to be shown in my film, because they have all the possibilities already, all the press and all the ways to expressing themselves. I just didn't want to give them any space in my movie. And I wanted to be, the voice of the farmers to be heard. And that's, even if I would have obtained an interview with them, I wouldn't have shown it in my film.
Parce que, en fait, ce qu'ils vont dire, moi je le sais déjà. C'est connu, c'est dans les rapports, c'est dans le journal. Ils disent que tout est bien, les villageois sont contents, l'État a gagné beaucoup d'argent. Et ça, j'ai pas envie de mettre ça dans le film.
Okay, and anyway, I knew beforehand what they were going to say, because that's what they say all the time in the reports, in the newspaper reviews. They will say, okay, we paid a lot of money to the government, we did it right. So I knew what they were going to say anyway.
Was there a way to make sure that they would see the film? Did you send it to them? Did you shove it in there?
Vous avez vraiment mis devant votre film, alors c'est ça que vous avez fait.
Okay. Oui, particulièrement cette compagnie minière, pour l'instant, elle est fermée, mais il y a toujours les bureaux à Ouaga. Je vais déposer le film là-bas. Mais pendant le FESPACO, le plus grand festival en Afrique qui s'est passé à Ouagadougou, les autres compagnies sont venues voir le film. Et je ne les connaissais pas. À la sortie du film, ils sont venus se présenter. Ils disent oui, nous sommes I Am Gold, nous sommes telle société. On a vu le film. J'ai dit mais vous êtes content? Bon, c'est la réalité. Donc ça, c'est quand même, ça m'a fait plaisir qu'ils voient le film déjà.
Yes, well, of course, this particular mining company has closed down, but they still have an office in Ouagadougou. So I sent the film to them, and my film was shown at the FESPACO, the biggest film festival in Africa. And quite a few gold mining companies, did come to see my movie then, and they spoke to me, and I asked them, what did you think? What did you think of my film? And they said, well, it's the reality. This is what it is.
But that was off the record.
Mais c'était pas devant le micro.
Non, pas en privé.
You take a stand as a filmmaker, but you also go one step further. You have the water tests. Was this a difficult decision to play that role as a filmmaker, or was it obvious?
Bon, c'est aussi la question fondamentale qu'on se pose souvent, quelle est la responsabilité du cinéaste, où il peut aller jusqu'où. Mais moi, je fais un cinéma qui est pour moi un cinéma qui peut pousser les choses, qui peut faire avancer, parce que dans mon pays, l'image a une importance et je le connais. Je sais que le cinéma peut être une arme puissante pour faire bouger les choses. Donc j'utilise ça. Et la plupart de mes films sont beaucoup dans cette action-là, de faire bousculer les choses, de ne pas suivre forcément l'ordre. Et c'est ce que j'aime dans mon cinéma et ce que j'ai envie de faire. Et je crois que, souvent on dit que le cinéma ne peut pas changer le monde. Mais non, moi je crois que le cinéma peut changer le monde. Et c'est pour ça que je fais ce style de cinéma qui est effectivement de passer souvent à l'action. Et bon.
Yes. This is really what I want to do. It's a fundamental question, the responsibility of the filmmaker, and to how far do you take this? Where do you want it to go? And my style is that I really want to, to make progress, to put things, really in their face. And I know that in my country, the image, the visual plays a really important role. It's a very strong weapon. And so that's why, in general, my films are, films of action. I don't want to simply respect, the normal order of things. I really, the question is often asked, can cinema change the world? Well, in my view, it can.
Thank you. Sjirk, if we talk about responsibility of the filmmaker, how about the responsibility of consumers? As you said, well, maybe we all think we don't buy gold every day, but it's also in cell phones. You said before the film, it's in things you'd be very surprised about. Do you have an example? Because then I'm curious.
Well, I was surprised with the smartphone already. I didn't know that actually. But it's a good question.
What can we do? Is there a way to buy gold or things with gold in it and to know the story behind it?
If you buy a smartphone, it doesn't say there's gold in it, so that's difficult, and that's also for a laptop, for example, the case. But what the role of consumers is I think very interesting, and we have a tendency, I think, to make consumers responsible for their purchases, but I'm wondering whether that's fair, because it's not only the consumer who's responsible for purchasing the products and purchasing responsible products, but companies also have a responsibility. And what we have seen over the past decades is a lot of initiatives and a lot of certifications, for example, through which companies try to become more sustainable. But if you look at the effectiveness of those initiatives and their contribution to solving big world problems such as poverty or climate change, then I don't think these initiatives are very effective. So what we're advocating for as a bank, and not only in this sector but also in other sectors, is stronger legislation for these companies. And I would even begin with legislation in the home countries of these companies. So most of the big multinational companies come from Western countries, and there's also a debate in our country, for example, on stronger legislation to force companies to become more responsible, because I think we've seen from all these initiatives over the past decades that all these voluntary initiatives have not been effective enough to solve these issues. So I think it's really time for the next step. And we can't expect consumers to solve these problems. There's much more needed for that.
Other questions from you? Yes.
Basic question. Do you think there is a possibility to take it to court, for example, in your own country, or how do you see the way forward for the court cases? Is there any chance?
Yeah. Thank you. I'll repeat the question. How do you see, is there any chance of this going to court, maybe in your own country, or how do you see this court case?
Okay. Oui, en faisant ce film, il y avait plusieurs options. La première option, c'était de dénoncer qu'il y a un problème grave. Et la deuxième option, c'était aussi que la population soit consciente qu'il y a des luttes à mener face à ces entreprises qui arrivent toutes en Afrique et qui exploitent, et qu'il faut une conscience pour contrer nos gouvernants à avoir une législative plus correcte. Ça, c'est le deuxième. Et le troisième, c'est effectivement comment, la question que je me pose, comment envoyer une société pareille, multinationale, qui est logée aux États-Unis ou à Londres, comment moi, burkinabé, cinéaste, je l'amène en justice. Donc, ça revient à la question dont vous avez posé, c'est la responsabilité collective et mondiale de tout consommateur. Oui, pourquoi pas, justement, s'associer de façon internationale pour qu'au niveau de l'Europe, soit vigilant aussi des entreprises qui sont installées de l'autre côté de l'Afrique et que souvent, on ne sait pas ce qui se passe. Notre rôle, c'est de dénoncer comment ces entreprises-là agissent dans nos pays. Ça, c'est notre devoir. Mais après, une action en justice doit demander forcément une connexion internationale. Voilà. Et ça, c'est encore une autre étape.
Yes, of course there were different options I took into consideration. First of all, it was important to show the seriousness of the problem. And then, of course, also raise awareness among local populations of, what was happening on the ground, and also make them aware of that action is needed also from local population on the ground towards their own governments. And then, of course, because the companies we are dealing with are based in the US or in the UK, so how then to undertake legal action? And this is where I think it is a collective responsibility, a worldwide responsibility from consumers as well as others, companies, and also a responsibility within Europe to be aware of what their companies are doing in Africa. And from there on, our role is to show what these companies are doing in our countries, but then it needs to be taken up, on a global level. Yeah.
Je voulais juste ajouter que, en fait, les populations européennes et les populations africaines ont le même problème, parce que ceux qui exploitent l'Afrique, c'est ceux qui exploitent l'Europe. On a les mêmes. Donc, il faut une action commune. Mais ça, il faudra que de notre côté, nous puissions parler de notre voix pour que les populations européennes comprennent comment agissent les sociétés, leurs sociétés, entre guillemets, dans nos pays. Et le film, pour moi aussi, c'était d'expliquer le chemin de la création de la pauvreté en Afrique. Voilà, parce que souvent on dit le continent le plus pauvre. Le Burkina, c'est le pays le plus pauvre. C'est le pays le plus riche, mais pauvre. Parce que justement, c'est incompréhensible. Voilà. Et ça, nous avons cette responsabilité de porter notre voix. Nous ne voulons pas qu'on parle pour nous voulons parler de notre voix. Et c'est pour ça que je suis cinéaste, comme beaucoup d'autres personnes. C'est pour ça que aussi j'ai fait ce film. Justement pour porter la voix de ceux qui subissent tous justement cette pression et ces ravages de l'exploitation, du néo-capitalisme, si on veut dire.
Voilà. Sorry, I need to check where. Yes, of course, I want to add something because this concerns the people in Europe as well as the people in Africa, because both continents are exploited by these big companies. So what we do need to do is undertake joint action. And our role is to make sure that we make our voices heard and explain to Europe what their companies are doing in Africa. And this is also what is important to understand. That's what's happening is also the creation of poverty, because they say people use it is said, okay, Africa, so the poor countries are so poor, but they are rich, poor countries. The poverty is created, and that's why we need to make our voices heard. And that's why I am a filmmaker, because we want to express ourselves. We don't want others to speak for us. And we want to make sure that the people that are suffering these actions, this poverty, are properly heard.
I wanted to give you more questions from you, but the answering takes a little longer, so I'm sorry I did all the questions. And we didn't even talk about the cowboys in your film, which I loved. I have just one really small last question. Michel K. Zongo, what's a K for?
Le K, c'est mon nom dans ma langue qui veut dire Kiswen Sida, et ça veut dire en français fais confiance en Dieu. Ça, c'est le nom que mon papa a donné. Voilà. Michel, c'est le nom vulgaire qui est sur le calendrier et qu'on peut donner à n'importe qui.
I love it. Yes, K stands for Kiswenda, which is my name in my language. Michel is just the general name that could be given to anything. But this name, Kiswenda, was given to me by my father, and it means he who has faith in God, places his confidence, his trust in God.
Well, thank you very much, Michel Kiswenda, Zongo, Sjirk Prins, and Gemma Keizer. Thank you.
Merci.